Right. So
So
we could, I mean, that's like some more advanced kind of stuff. I really want, I
yeah,
want to get back to the basics, but I do like ATR stands for average true range. And what it does is it measures over a certain time period. You probably have it on the default, which is 14 periods here.
yeah, the last 14 periods, and
Yeah.
I'm
So it
yep,
measures the range of the bars in those last 14 periods.
right.
And when you start to see wide ranges, it also means that volatility is increasing. But
Sure.
that's probably a discussion for a future video. Okay, so so you're looking now and you see that we're in the lower quadrant of that parent structure,
Yep.
and we hit that 50% of that lower quadrant.
Hmm.
And now what would you look for?
So, so obviously, you see a nice, I guess you could say, a sort of capitulated move, right? Where selling was just intense. I mean, we could even look at the volume, but that's not necessary. And price just stops right there at the equilibrium, right? And then price opens up on this candle, and then there's a continual probing further into below this, and all of this, as you could see now, of course, was buying. It was all buying below equilibrium. So we see, so instead of getting in here and just trying to trade the intraday chart, just take a look at the daily chart, understand the parent structure, find equilibrium, and watch where the buying happens. So this first buy right here tells me, oh, they're buying below, so there's buying. I'm going to try to revert to just saying there's buying or they're selling rather than saying they, right? Which kind
Right.
of is a conspiratorial thing. I don't know what they are doing. All I know is I can just go with the price and with equilibrium, a simple equilibrium concept. And so we can clearly see there was buying at this point. Perhaps maybe we could even go down and look and say, well, what was there an accumulation going on down here? We could also say there was profit taking too, and then an accumulation of long positions, and then of course we can go down to the lower time frame and look for that. Say the 1 hour chart, right? And we can actually see that, and then we could probably see the Wyckoff, concept of the spring.
Spring. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So if we were to do that, I bet you anything you're going to probably see a consolidation here, right? And then a run below the consolidation, and then because that is kind of the model. That's one of the things I look for too, I should say, and I'll use my brush for this, is if you see a consolidation, right? So let's say if we were to go down to the lower time frame and look at this, and we started seeing something like this, right, where price is doing this right above this line, right? And it's just kind of sitting there, right? And it's creating a range, right, like this, right? So you've got the highs and you've got the lows, right?
Right.
So what's happening there in that range? Well, there are people who are watching this, millions of other traders, and they're going to be looking to go short in continuation of a trend, right? Because the trend is down. So if the price breaks out like it did here, right? Breaks out, well, there's always going to be a retest usually, right?
Right.
And so the people who went short, where are they going to put their stops? Where are they going to put, to people who are short, where are they going to put their buy stops? They're going to put them right here.
Right. Right above that range. Yeah.
Yeah, right above this range, right? And so what does this do? This is how liquidity or this is how accumulation happens, right? So what's accumulating across the top are buy stops, right? And then you have people who are looking to buy, right? And so as they see the price move down like this, and then they start to see, oh, price comes up and breaches above this.
Right.
So
Everybody's moving in because they see it breaking out of a range.
right. So that's what I'm talking about. So I'll give credit to Mr. Michael Helston, who helped me understand this. He says, where you see price consolidate, that is one of the greatest clues you have to ask yourself, why is price consolidating here? Well, are we near an important equilibrium? And is the consolidation happening above the equilibrium? So that is like your first clue. It's like, Look, and that's what I look for. I want to see price jump out of this and just create that sort of like, oh my goodness, it's so bearish,
Right. It broke that lower trend line, so everybody's very bearish and they try to go short.
Right. It broke the support, right? But this is just how they lead the sheep to the slaughter, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like you want to wait for that, and then you want to wait for price to, to show you, right? So one of the good things to do is to let price move up, maybe in the first move up, right? And if they've accumulated a long position here, well, then I look and I say, okay, well, where is the next area of liquidity where they could do a quick distribution and make some quick money, right? So if you look up to the left and you see there's some equal highs, well, what's going to be sitting up there? Well, those are buy stops. And so what they'll generally do is you'll see where price will, where what was accumulated here, they'll distribute some of that accumulated position at a higher price. In other words, make money at a pocket of buy stops sitting above.
So the most previous high is
Yes.
just above the buy.
And that's what you see here, because
Right.
you see this high that's sitting right here. Well,
Yeah.
that's what happened. You see some profit taking place, right?
Right.
Because it's a daily chart, so you're going to see they're going to be buy stops. People who were short got in on this, right? Came late to the party. They go, I'm going to try to go short here, right? Well, they're going to put their stops right above these highs, because then they see the support, or the previous support here could act as resistance. Maybe it'll just be just a tad bit above it, but you could see the price probes up, and it kind of goes. Remember I was telling you about the body? See where the bodies accumulate?
Yeah.
Right. So it moves up just above that, right? And then it kind of comes back and closes off of the high.
Right.
So these are just some dynamics. But again, the main point of what I'm explaining here is where you see price consolidate gives you clues. And so just for the heck of it, let's do that. Let me go ahead and get rid of these drawings here. Let's see the most recent ones here. Actually, just do this. It's quicker to just go Control Z, right? There we go.
And now, what platform are you on? What platform?
This is TradingView.
TradingView. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I love TradingView, man. TradingView.
Yeah, I love it too.
It's great. All right, so just for the heck of it, let's look right here on the lower time frame and see if I'm right. See if there's actually a consolidation that happened on a lower time frame. Okay, or happened just above this, and we can see it's on the other side, so it's going to be on the other side of the low. So I'll just stay on the hourly chart here. And so there you go. All right. There it was. A little consolidation right here, right? Mm-hmm. This is what's fascinating about how efficient and how quick a distribution of, so you can say, okay, we're starting to distribute, right? We're going to start distributing some of our positions. And then there's this little quick consolidation right here, right? And you see this consolidation, right? Everybody's watching this. You got people watching it on tick charts. You got people watching it on 1 minute charts. I mean, so it's obviously would be a bigger consolidation on a 1 minute chart. And then there's this impulsive run out of it, right? So everyone's like, oh my gosh, the trend is continuing, right? Look at the choppiness that we've been through, and they just see this. And what do people do? They just jump in, man. That's FOMO.
Well, plus just to the left of that little breakout is a pump down, is that little movement down there to that 50% equilibrium level, which indicated that, hey, maybe that was the bottom. So all those people who saw the breakout above the resistance area said, oh, this is a perfect time to go long because the capitulation's already in.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And so you saw that right away. You saw this little area of resistance right here, and there was this pop up above it, right? So that gets people to buy. So people start. So it causes people to make a mistake. These they're just chomping at the bit to get in a buy position, right? Because they saw the pin, right? Yep. They're like, oh, it broke the resistance, and then everybody just buys, right? So, and they're just being led to the slaughter on both sides of the market, right?
Right.
And so I suppose you could call this a sort of manipulation in some regards, but I won't really go too much into that.
Well, again, it's on a shorter time frame. That's just liquidity again, right? Because they know that people have gotten in, or they play those breakouts and they get into a position long, and so that's where the liquidity is for their short position.
Right. Right. And so here's that kind of structure high with a little bit of support, previous support coming. So you got like an SR right here. Mm-hmm. So that's basically
SR. Okay, for those who don't know SR, so SR is just support.
Yes.
And resistance.
Support resistance, right? So this acted as support, and that's just one of the fundamental principles of just basic market understanding is where price shows support, it generally, when price breaks out of support, it generally comes back up to test the support and it becomes resistance. And
that's right. That's probably one of the most easiest to understand, and also one of the most important basic concepts of analysis, price analysis, is support becomes resistance, resistance becomes support.
And I would say if that is what, and Nick Sean is a perfect example of this. I mean, he drills this into people. He says, look at this clean area, this horizontal support. Notice how price broke and retested and went lower. He says, you can't get any simpler than that. You're already in a downtrend, right? So you're trading with the trend. The old saying, the trend is your friend. Right. And I mean, you can see this was an extrapolated move all the way to, and if you just maybe understand a little bit something about equilibrium, it's like, hey, maybe we're going to get down just right above that equilibrium, and a good place to get out.
Right.
So, but the whole point is we should see a consolidation sitting above. So again, where price consolidates like this, right? You have to ask yourself, why is it doing this? Why is this going, doing this like this? And then all of a sudden you see this big, massive, just move out below consolidation, right? And so this is very common. And so
and you're still on a 1 hour chart, right? That's 1 hour.
Yeah, so I went to a 1 hour chart because because we were on a daily, and what I was saying is that we're likely going to see a consolidation above this equilibrium, right? So this is a sort of accumulation of longs. This is how longs begin to get accumulated. And so we'll go back to the daily where we were at, and we'll go right back to where we were at, and that's was over here. Just a sec here.
Yep.
So
really just going from one time frame to another, going from a monthly to a daily to an hourly is just like looking at different magnitudes of magnifier, just a magnifying the smaller time frame price action.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So they're going to be cities within cities, right? It's kind of like you got a large forest, right? So if you're down there looking at 3 or 4 trees in the forest, right, you really don't have the bigger picture,
right?
So you always, because price has a fractal nature to it, right? It's fractals. It's people can look up fractals, and you can see that phenomenon happening in nature, even with plant leaves like fern leaves, right? You can see that you got one big fern leaf, but that big fern leaf is made up of smaller exact duplicates or identical leaves that are smaller. So
that's actually something I learned a long time ago about chaos theory, and it was really looking at fractals. Markets are fractals. The larger time frames tend to mirror the smaller time frames, and the patterns are very, very similar. And I really suggest and highly suggest everybody kind of do their own research on fractals in the markets, and study that, because I think it's really kind of a good broad overview of how price action actually works on different time frames and how self-similar they are. But I think that's a great point. Okay, so continue your analysis here, because this is really, really interesting. I think this is absolutely fascinating. I absolutely love the idea that price is everything, or pie. I really like that.
Yeah, price is everything. Yep.